Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us today at the Mobile IT Community of Interest, the monthly webinar for July. I will intro the session that was delivered today by Dale Beard of Intelliwave. Dale will present some of the newest mobile technologies being used for not only materials and equipment but also for personnel management at the construction job site. Mobile technologies will include iOS and Android devices for actual field activities, including the use cases for each application. Main takeaways from this meeting include the types of mobile devices being used today in fabrication and field construction, associated applications being used with the mobile devices, key use cases, and key lessons on how to maximize adoption. There will also be performance considerations for field use. So once again, thank you for joining us today in this industry update to explore how your organization can easily adopt the same technologies and realize the benefits immediately. Okay, I'll briefly explain how you can interact with the community monthly meetings using the GoToWebinar system. Everybody's on default mute settings, and that's only due to lots of participants on the call. You can get audio over your telephone or the speakers of your computer to improve sound quality. There are a few adjustments there if needed. The panel is set to hide automatically. Please use the orange arrow button to show or hide the control panel at your own will. You can change the settings on the view menu at the top of the panel. You're encouraged to please forward any questions that come up during the presentation using the questions tab. Your questions will be read after the featured presentation, and we can identify, if you like, who's asking the questions, and that would do that to foster participation and greater interaction between attendees. However, if you'd like to remain anonymous, just say so. We'd also have a live poll session planned at the end. There's 4 questions in there which you're able to answer by clicking on the choices provided. And at the end of the meeting we'll have a follow-up survey. If you can, please, I'd encourage you to respond to these questions so we can incorporate your feedback into the work of the community. Thanks very much again. We'll now start the presentation. So, the community of interest. The objective of this community is to truly showcase the mobility solutions that will or have already been adopted in the capital projects industry. We strive to achieve this goal by presenting the latest use cases of mobile IT adoption, and also by allowing the breadth of the community participants to expose their perspective on these technology applications. We have been delivering use cases and industry perspectives through various channels, including these monthly meetings and virtual and live discussions, some documentation and reports from the gatherings, but also by facilitating the creation of research and development projects within both organizations. The community of interest is a partnership. It's a partnership venture between Fiatech and Comit. Fiatech is a member-based organization with an objective of improving the productivity of the capital projects industry through the deployment of technology. Our goal is to improve productivity in the capital project sector through the adequate leadership in global development and adoption of innovative practices. Comit is also a member-based organization and is based in the UK. Its principal aim is to learn from experience and deliver measurable business benefits in terms of adoption of mobile technologies. This partnership therefore supports the work and objectives of this community. So, who's in the community? Well, first a bit more about the community. It's 2.5 years old, and through the last 2.5 years we've had up to 1,550 participants take part from over 460 organizations located in 43 countries around the world. Mainly the participants are located in North America and Europe, but as we continue to expand in the Middle and Far East, we're beginning to attract participation from South America and elsewhere. We are very pleased with the industry's response so far, and we're continually working to meet the needs of our members and participants. Mobile information technology is an emerging and successful intervention that's revolutionizing the field data collection process in the construction industry. The focus of the Automated Field Data Collection and Control Productivity Advancement Target, or for short PAT, team is to achieve a 40% improvement in efficiency of field data collection in the construction industry. Today's webinar is, as I mentioned, brought to you by Intelliwave and supports the work that that Fiatech is doing in the PAT 9 and also in PAT 7. These are productivity advancement targets. For short, we call them PATs. They're all covered under the Construction Advanced Works Packaging PAT. This one is supporting the automated field data collection and control. And this one specifically will enable a 40% improvement in efficiency, and that's the cycle time reduction of field data collection or information access. A bit about the event that's on the screen. You can see this is the leadership forum. It's held on the 9th through the 19th to the 21st of September in New Orleans. Within that forum there is an automated field data workshop. This is a 1 3/4 hour session, and the session will provide the participants a platform to explore and look at lessons learned from companies on how they identified, initiated, accepted and successfully implemented mobile IT for improving their field processes. The takeaways or the takeaway effective strategies, initiatives such as organisation, social, etc. that can leverage mobile IT acceptance, implementation and sustained application. A list of construction field processes that have scope for improvement using mobile IT, and also look at existing and developing mobile IT technologies that can help in the improvement of field work. Participants for this will be senior management, data technicians, field data collectors, operations teams, and those who would benefit from improved data control and process improvement. Just another note on PATs. There are 11 further PATs that suit all aspects of the capital projects world, with everything from automated design through integrated materials management to interoperability and handover. Have a closer look at those when we release the slides through the webinar link. You'll be able to see that there is something there for everybody. So I'll now move on to the main presentation, but before I hand over to Dale, a little bit about Dale and Intelliwave. Dale co-founded Intelliwave Technologies in 2007. He is the company lead for business development and sales. He has a construction focus in materials, equipment and personnel management. Has 7 years prior experience in RF and electrical test product management. Holds a BSc in electrical engineering and an MBA. He is a registered professional engineer with APEGA. So Dale, over to you. Thank you very much.
Hey, thanks Stuart. Hey, this is Dale Beard. As Stuart mentioned, a bit of my background there. I'm going to be giving you a bit of an overview today about mobile technologies in the construction field. So let me advance here to the next slide. So just to give you a bit of an overview of Intelliwave as a company, as Stuart mentioned, we founded the company in 2007, and we actually started the company in Alberta, Canada, to really focus on creating an automated material management and equipment and personnel tracking system that would work in the harsh industrial environment of northern Alberta. And we've been successful in doing that and have deployed multiple projects worldwide today, using some of the advanced technologies of cloud-based applications, mobile applications, and web applications as well, all around really enhancing the visibility of materials, equipment, and personnel. So I'm going to start with a safety moment here today, and this is around making the site safer. So when you're operating a mobile device, just like you are in your car today, and the fact that you're not allowed to operate it while you're driving, same idea for the construction site. If you need to stop, so if you need to look at your mobile application, stop first, look around you, make sure there's no equipment in your area, and then proceed to do work on your mobile device. In some cases, if you're walking and looking at your mobile device, that's an unsafe practice and can result in injuries to yourself or to others if you're not paying attention. So always stop first, look down, and get your work done, and then carry on with your work after you've looked at your tablet or mobile device. One of the initiatives that we've been working on in Intelliwave is to actually promote heads-up activity on the project sites. And to do this, we've actually implemented augmented reality into the mobile devices, so you can lift up your iPhone or your iPad or your Android tablet and it will overlay the position of the piece that you're going to go find. So very similar to sort of the new Pokemon Go out there, where you're trying to find those little critters. But this is the same idea, but to find pipe spools, steel beams, tag equipment, and much, much more. And so this will help your workers look up instead of looking down. Again, it's kind of like a heads-up display, but for mobile applications. So first I wanted to talk about productivity in our sector and compare that versus other sectors. And so this is actually a study done by McKinsey and Comit. They've done a few of these studies. This one's a little bit different than maybe others you've seen. This is actually based on the value provided by the workers over a number of years in terms of thousands of dollars per worker. It's been really added to the top line. So if you look at manufacturing since 1995 through about 2011 versus construction, they've actually added about 1.7 times the amount of value. Okay, so there's been a huge difference in gain and productivity if you look at just manufacturing and construction. And even what's a little bit more maybe not great for our industry and construction is that productivity has actually been declining a little bit. And that's been a trend that really needs to be reversed. And one of the focuses for Fiatech has been around these PATs in order to help increase that productivity. And there are other organizations as well that are focused on the same thing. CII and MITCOI in Alberta as well are all focused around how do we improve the productivity on our construction sites, because it's really not acceptable today. And there are many technologies and process improvements that can be taking place in order to improve that over time. So we'll talk about a few of those here today around the advancements of some of the mobile technologies out there that really can make your job easier and be more productive as well. So CII have done many different research reports. The pie chart on the right is one that they did in 2010 around craft productivity, and this is really showing time on tools for the crew or for the workers. So direct work is the red slice of the pie, and that's actually the amount of time that the workers spend on their tools. So they could be pipe fitters, welders, you name it. They're the folks out there who are doing the installation work, doing the testing, really the hands-on work. So if you look at other places they spend their day, pretty inefficient, or they're around planning. But in most cases, there are some easy low-hanging fruit items that they could really improve on. So one of those, just to mention here, would be waiting. So if you look at the waiting time, is 13% of their day spent, and waiting is around waiting for their work instructions, waiting for their materials, maybe because they can't complete their installation package without those materials, and the same goes for equipment as well. So if you look at tools and equipment, 19%, again, part of that's just getting their tools and equipment ready for the day in order for them to do their installation. So if they can't find their welding machine, they can't find their generator, well, they're searching for it, and that's time that's spent inefficiently and not on the tools. Travel as well, at 17%. If you look at travel, this is time a worker spends going back to the office, maybe getting drawings or instructions or clarifications, and also travel can be reduced greatly by just giving the information to the worker in the field when they need it. And this is really through cloud-based technologies and mobile devices as well, to get access to the cloud for information that they need on the spot when they need it. So all that really relates in really adding time on tools. And if you look at another study that CI did in 2008, RT240, this is really based around the use of RFID and mobile technologies, being able to visualize or make visible those materials and equipment to the work face when they need them. And there they saw about a 10x improvement on being able to just find items faster by the use of those technologies. And so there's a big case here for really getting information to the fingertips of the workers when they need it. So I'm going to just quickly talk about a technology adoption curve. This is from one of my favorite authors, Geoffrey Moore. He wrote a book called Crossing the Chasm, which really explains technology adoption. And this is a bit of a broad take on it, but if you look at the different types of folks out there that are adopting the technology, you can sort of break them out into a bell curve. And at the beginning of that bell curve, on the left-hand side, you see the innovators, or techies, we call them. Those are the folks that love technology. They advocate technology. They push it. They push it a lot because they know it's going to make a difference in their job or other things that they're working on. So usually selling to innovators or techies or pushing the technology to them to get them to adopt it is fairly easy. The early adopters or the visionaries, a little bit harder to push the technology to. Typically they need a killer application in order to kind of see what is they need to focus with that technology. So think about the techies as you know, the people that like maybe the HoloLens from Microsoft, right? They think it's really cool. The early adopters, however, they actually need to focus on some sort of application that they can use that in. So if you take that same example, you know, maybe they want to use it for looking at their maintenance routines as they're outside and don't want to look on their tablet. So they see a application for it, and those are typically the early adopters or the visionaries of creating that application to fit the need. Now the chasm, which really is the crossover from the early adopters into the early and late majority, that's actually the most difficult thing to do, and this is really taking that, both the technology and the application, and bringing it into mainstream, meaning that it's really become a standard practice piece of work that everyone starts using, and it becomes daily practice. So for that to happen, you really need a very focused application for them to use. It's got to be easy to use. It's got to be somewhat bulletproof. But for the early majority, what they need is that, again, that application that becomes part of their daily practice. All right, so they're using it over and over and over again. Now the late majority, or the conservatives, they need a technology product that is very robust. Okay, so some of the early majority can sort of withstand some of the bugs or glitches in the system, but late majority and the laggards, they really need a robust product that really just works all the time, and also doesn't create havoc in their daily process, meaning that to do the work actually takes less time and not more time. Okay, so if you look at the end of the curve there, the end of the bell curve, the laggards, those folks really pick up those technologies because they become really standard practice for the industry that they're in, and if they don't use it, they're basically going to, you know, lose business or run out of business. So it's kind of something they have to do and are really pushed into it. Okay, so that's kind of the technology adoption curve. I'm sure you can relate it to sort of your business as well, and how you develop technologies and push those into your organizations. So first, you know, the next set of slides we're going to talk about here are some of the new tablets, new smartphones, both in rugged and non-rugged format. And really to start that off here, we're going to talk about a rugged field tablet that Intelliwave has been launching this year. It's actually, this tablet just came out earlier this year in about March or so, so it is a fairly new tablet. It runs on the latest Android system 5.1, so you can actually use different Android apps on it. It's a very powerful tablet, so it has pretty much all the features you'd see in a current PC. The one thing that we really love about this tablet in the field is that the screen is easy to read in the sun. A lot of issues with older tablets were basically that the screen was a bit dimmer, harder to see with the reflection, and so this has a much easier to read screen outdoors, which provides a better user experience for the field crew who are using it. The other thing that's really nice about this little tablet here is the operating time. So just with a standard battery, it operates for 8 hours, which really helps for a shift for the day, but you can option it up to a 20-hour battery in case you want to run it over multiple shifts as well. So that's really nice. You don't want a tablet that's going to run out on you in 2 to 4 hours of heavy use, where this tablet will last basically a shift. It also has all the modern technology for communications, Bluetooth, it's got a GPS receiver, Wi-Fi, and also LTE connectivity as well, for really a real-time connection, a fast connection into the cloud to access your applications. One thing I'd like to mention about the scanning capability is that it's very important, and we've noticed this on the project sites, is that you need a laser scanner really embedded into your device so that you can just click and scan something easily. You always have an option of a backup of the optical scanner with the camera. However, we've noticed unhappy users when they're using the optical scanner because it can take them 2 to 3 seconds to sort of stabilize their image, take a picture of it, then read the barcode or the QR code. And even then, if it's a blurry picture, then you got to retake the picture. So in some cases, you know, they're taking up to 10 seconds just to scan a barcode. And so the inclusion of a laser scanner is really, really important in these devices because there's a lot of barcodes out there they need to read in one format or another. And so this unit actually has a built-in 1D and 2D barcode scanner for both linear and QR type barcodes. The other thing that's really needed in these rugged field tablets is both not just waterproof, but it could be water resistant and also dust proof as well. So you can actually use it in the outdoor elements and still know that it's going to work if you drop it into a puddle. It also has a very wide range operating temperature, which is something that has become really useful for us in Alberta and other cold climates, is that it'll actually operate at least down to -34 Celsius. And if you have it running, the battery keeps it warm anyway, and you can actually operate below that temperature if needed as well. The other thing to keep in mind is if you're in an operating environment, you know, you need to consider if you need an intrinsically safe device, and you know, what is the classification of that intrinsically safe device. So the other great thing about this little tablet is that it actually comes standard with the Class 1 Zone 2 rating or ATEX Zone 2 certification as well. So most gas plants, oil and gas plants, if you're outdoors, are all Zone 2. Just keep in mind that Zone 1 rating is when you're inside of an enclosure like a vessel. All right. So in most cases, Zone 1 is not really needed, but Zone 2 is for those operating environments. The next classification for these tablets are what we call semi-rugged field tablets. So that device I just showed you was a full ruggedized field tablet, purpose-built with that in mind. Now, if you do want to use iPhones or iPads like you can see here, there actually are aftermarket snap-on adapters that include laser scanners in them. This is an example of one we've been using quite a bit. You can see there's a button on the top with an arrow on it and 2 lines. That represents the barcode scanner, and actually just acts like an input device. So like any sort of keyboard device, as long as you're in the field that you want to scan and have that barcode be entered, you just tap that button and it'll scan your barcode for you in less than a second. The other thing this type of snap-on case provides is it does provide some intrusion capability for dust and water as well. Okay, so it does keep your device safer in terms of outdoor operation use. So there are a couple things that it can provide for you for about $1,000 or less in some cases, depending on the type of enclosure here. But this particular one has been a very good one that we've been using for many different applications on construction projects here. Oops, sorry, went too many there. So the next classification of rugged device is really a smartphone type application here, and this is what we call the rugged field smartphone. And this type of device is like your smartphone. You can make calls on it if you wanted to. We don't really recommend that, but typically these smartphones are mainly used for surfing the websites for any of your applications, and also running apps on the device as well. So if they're Android apps or iOS apps, you can run those natively on these types of devices. The one key thing that's different with this device versus that tablet that we showed earlier is that this is a one-hand operation type device. So the tablet is very good for seeing a large screen. You can see a lot of information on it. But in some cases, you need to be quick in terms of scan, 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 and do your operations very quickly. And these devices can do that because just like your phone, you can hold it with one hand and and do your operation very quickly. With the other hand, let's say you need to move something out of the way or look at a tag. So this allows you one hand free to do those operations. And so we've actually found use cases for that, and we'll kind of go through that in the next few slides. But this is a different classification unit that does have its purpose in both fabrication and construction projects. And this device that I'm showing here is a Trimble device. Now there are different rugged field, smartphone variations out there. The reason that in some cases we use Trimble like this is because natively they're a very good company for GPS type services. So if you think about location-based services, and you need a lot of that on construction sites for kind of the where is it factor, if you have a good GPS device that has very good accuracy and also can boot up in a matter of seconds in terms of locking on satellites, then a Trimble device may be one of the better devices on the market for that. The other thing that Trimble does really well is that they ruggedize their devices really well. So they are IP68 in some cases, meaning that they can be submerged underwater and still operate. They can easily be in sand, dirt, snow, a lot of different types of environments and still be operational. You can actually hose this down with a pressure washer if you really wanted to, if it was too dirty. But this device, just like that ruggedized tablet, has all the connectivity in it as well. That has, from LTE to Bluetooth to Wi-Fi. It also has built-in 1D and 2D barcode scanners. And the other thing that this one adds that others may not add is that it does have a UHF, a passive RFID scanner. But one thing that you have to understand with that is that there's a trade-off if you include the RFID scanner, and that is that you can't have the barcode scanner as well with that option. So that's a bit of a trade-off with that item. In most cases, when we do use passive RFID, it's typically done with a Bluetooth adapter and not typically built into the device, because having a laser scanner built in is usually much more efficient way to do it. Again, it has a very wide operating temperature range as well, and what you'd find with a ruggedized or smartphone like that. So the other classification of smartphone is, again, kind of like that iPad is a semi-rugged version of that for an iPhone or an Android phone. So this, again, is a snap-on case that allows a laser scanner to be included as well. This is sort of one example. You don't need the credit card scanner in this photo here, but the point being is that you can easily get a laser scanner built in on a phone like this to actually do your task very quickly. I'm sure if you've been to any Apple store as of late, you can see that they've got the same sort of snap-on adapters with their phones to do all sorts of transactional operations. So for your field, same idea here. You can use it for that transactional nature work. And again, it's a one-hand operation, so you can actually do more because you've got a hand free for different activities. So the next few slides will actually run through some of the use cases. But before that, I wanted to talk about some of the key benefits that we're seeing and our clients are seeing for these mobile devices. And there's kind of two classifications. We want to be sort of generalize them here. The one is automating your tasks. So the phones and the tablets have a lot of built-in capability that allow you to do different things. So if you look at some of those automation of tasks, probably the most common one really is the search for the item. What are you looking for? Can I find out information about it? Does it have a photo? Does it have documentation? Can I see its progress within the system? Does it have maintenance tasks, etc.? So the search identification, automating that, all you have to really do is either type in the part number into the mobile device or scan its barcode or even scan its RFID tag as well. Also, the camera adds a lot of automation to that. So if you're actually taking photos of the items for, let's say, materials management, if you want to do a material receipt report and you need to take a picture because it's damaged, well, that's built right into the device, and so you're not having to take a picture, upload it to your FTP server, or a PAP package in with your material receiving report. So all that's kind of built in, making it a kind of one-stop shop. Sensors can be built in as well, like that UHF scanner. And again, with some of the things that are coming out today that you've seen, at least on the commercial space, and you're starting to see on the industrial space, augmented reality is one of those. So showing really what's kind of behind the scenes there. Maps, really location-based type services, showing where you are, showing where pieces are that you need to go see or maintain, or maybe you need to issue them for construction. And also looking at work instructions or drawings as well, right from the those mobile devices. So you're not having to go back to your trailer, go back to your office. You can actually just take a look right in the field. And that will help decrease that travel time as well that you saw sort of in that pie chart of how a worker spends their day. So that kind of comes back to reduction of travel and waste, which is really the second major benefit for the mobile devices. So kind of, again, having the information in the field can be hugely valuable in order to keep them on the tools and keep them on their task. That's pretty important these days to improve that productivity. So having that access in the field to any of that database information, and how you access that data we'll actually cover here, having those sort of killer apps that construction workers find useful and easy to use is going to be a big part of that. Okay, so here let's jump into some of these use cases. Before that, we'll actually just give you a quick overview of one of the poll questions that we had at the beginning when everybody registered here for this webinar. So we asked the question about, what do you want to look at, or what do you want to see for use cases, and the majority, 50%, 53% actually want to see materials management type applications. The next one really is work packaging and then commissioning. So we'll cover some of those here in the next few slides. And again, if we're not covering what you want to see, please feel free to reach out in the question or the Q&A session there as well. Okay, so the first use case that we'll talk about is for fabrication tracking. Okay, so there are a number of different things that workers do today using mobile devices to help make their lives easier, either at the pipe shop or the module yard. Really, again, sort of collecting data, reporting on that data, and I've listed sort of three major bullets here that we've seen for use of these mobile devices to collect that data. One is progressing information. So as the pipe or the steel go through the shop, you need to progress its status. Has it been cut? Has it been fit? Has it been welded? Has it been QC tested? Has it been hydro tested? There's a bunch of different tests that these pieces go through, and so if you can scan that item, update its progress step right there on the shop floor, well, you have a much more real-time based system, just like in manufacturing, to understand where that piece is. Then if you link it back to the construction site, you can actually tell, for expediting purposes, where's that piece in production, has it been shipped? So kind of the next two bullets are packaging, which really is getting ready for shipment, getting on a trailer, and then loading as well, so getting those load lists partially automated as well. Oops, went too far there. So this is an example of what fabrication workers are using today with a ruggedized smartphone type device. They can easily scroll through the pieces that they're looking for. They can scan them with the laser scanner. They can see photos of the item. And one thing I'll mention here about this application is that you can see that the background is actually black and the text is white. So that came back from different case studies or applications that we're looking at. The contrast of a black background with white text actually performs much better in the sun as well, so for that reflection and readability. But the second benefit of that as well is that it also increases the battery time or operation time for these devices. Because you have a black pixel versus a white pixel, it's going to take less power to run that device. All right, so we've actually seen performance increase because of just that simple layout of a black background with white text. talked a little bit about progressing there. So if you look at some of the fabrication tracking using progressing, you can see here in this particular case the progress tracks on the right-hand side. This particular client is doing hydro test paint, but they're not doing installation or rework because it's mainly for fabrication purposes. But if they want to track, let's say, hydro test, well, that is a physical test. So to do that, they actually just open the app, they hit the progress step, they enter the date complete, and because they are logged into the device as a user, it also tracks who did that test, when they did that test as well. It's a very traceable, auditable system for knowing who did what and when. And then some of these other tracks can be done automatically in the system if you actually have RFID installed and you've got readers in those areas, like in this case in the paint shop. The system will automatically update that piece in paint. So if you actually were to access this pipe spool from the application, you can see its progress. And if you're not doing the transactional work of updating when that step was done, well, you at least get to see when that step was done and when it was done to a very high degree of accuracy. So the next use case we'll talk about here is site materials management. And site materials management, the life cycle of materials really starts at the PO stage, so ordering the item, fabricating or manufacturing the item. But once it's actually shipped, there's a lot of different use cases that workers can adopt to on the construction site, including receiving is one of those. So you have to actually receive the item. You have to do any overcharge or damage reports on it. You have to take photos of it. You have to make sure the documentation is there, the bill of lading, etc. Okay, so receiving, being able to do that mobile device can make it much faster in terms of scanning the item, receiving it against the PO, and then automatically, once that's done on the mobile device, as long as it's connected back to the network, then that will also be updating the system in real time. So if you're actually needing to install that piece right away, and you've got an alert on that, you know that that piece has been received, and you can then issue it to the work face very quickly, within a matter of minutes or even less than an hour, to make sure the guys and girls at the construction face really are getting the most time on tools. The other point here, material movement. So if you're transferring materials from one warehouse to the next, you can also do that with a mobile device, so you can scan it, update its warehouse location, and then re-enter that piece. Especially if you're working some of the forklifts outside, and you maybe move one material to get to another piece of material. If you want to leave that first material in place, you can just rescan it and update its material location right there. So instead of it being in grid A1, now maybe it's in A2. And all that, again, is with the mobile device, so the time when a forklift operator may not have the time or deliver the paperwork back to the trailer that something was moved, this makes it a lot easier for them. So again, your accuracy is increased for your actual physical material locations. Preservation maintenance, also very useful application there. When you download your work list for the day in terms of what needs to be maintained, it's on your tablet or your mobile device. You can go through each one step by step. And not only does it tell you, what you need to go maintain for that day, but it tells you where they are as well, and typically in order of closest to you. So very useful in terms of making the work much more productive to maintain those items. And if you look at the next side, which is, if someone's requested those materials for construction, the workers can take their mobile device with them as they get their pick ticket signed off to the construction crew. Okay, so all that's done right in real time, and you know who did it as well, because just beyond the digital signature, you also have a real person that you've delivered it to, and a location as well. So all that makes it much easier if there's a crew shift during the installation process, so they know exactly where that material was laid down for construction purposes. And then the last one there is installation progress, and we'll talk a little bit about that and earned value as well in the next few slides. So let's cover a couple of the some of the screens in the materials management application. The one first screen here will show, and you can see two devices side by side. This is an iPhone on the left hand side and an iPad on the right hand side. The one thing you have to keep in mind when you're designing applications is that it needs to adjust and be dynamic to the type of device very easily. So it's got to be readable in both formats and create the best use of space, again, to increase that user experience. So here on the login and then the dashboard side, you can see very quickly as a user what you have to do in terms of which loads have to be received. In this case, they've got 2 pick tickets here to go issue to the field, and so that makes it very easy for them to know exactly what their workload is. On the receipt side, again, I mentioned on the previous slide there about receipt procedures. So if you don't have the application do that properly with your mobile device, they're going to go back to pen and paper and process that through the office. So an important part is having that functionality built in. And if you look at the receive screens here, you can see it's pretty easy to click on the PO, look at the item, receive that item, take a photo of it, see the camera icon there on the right-hand side, and do any OS&Ds as well, right there on the spot. Okay, so much higher worker satisfaction, and again, provides real-time data on when those pieces were received. Again, to make sure that user acceptance and user satisfaction is very high. If you look at some of the applications used today in Google Maps or other types of items, it's expected that the applications work flawlessly and they're easy to use and they're very intuitive. And this actually is a mapping tool here that just is on the left-hand side that shows where they are, where they need to go. You can thumb over it to see a picture of the thing that you're looking for. Gives you both audio and visual alerts as you're searching for those items. So very easy to use, and that relates again to a high user experience, and that's that stickiness, we'll call it, where they want to keep using that application increases really from the first time you use, and that stickiness will help you really deploy more of these tablets and phone devices in the field for other applications if they have a good experience with an application just like this here. So use case 3 is around progressing and earned value. So if you think about how much work is being done on a project site in terms of is the piece installed, if it's pipe, has it been torqued, has it been bolted, has it been hydro tested, has it been heat traced, etc. When you're actually updating those statuses, you can do it right in the field. Okay, so taking your handheld device, you can see here's a one-hand field operation device. Scan the item. You can click the status of that item. Any of those progress tracks you can see in the lower left-hand corner. So when you actually click it to update it, it does it right there in real time. And again, because you're logged in as a user with the username and password and access, all that's traceable as well. So you know who did what, when they did it, where they did it. All right, so it's a pretty easy thing to do for QC inspectors or others to go and update that status throughout the life cycle of that equipment piece or fabricated piece during the construction process, and really provides that real-time data. So if you actually are doing earned value reports, you can actually look and see at the end of the day how much was done, as opposed to waiting for the reports to be collected, the data to be entered at the office, and then maybe you might have your status a week later, which is probably too late to actually getting actual items out of it here. And so that's one thing that if you look at manufacturing versus construction, that's one reason why manufacturing performs really well today, is that a lot of the data they have is real time. So to make decisions, to make things better in the future, they can actually act on that information right away. The fourth use case here is personnel tracking. And so there are a number of different use cases that we have for applications today within SiteSense. We use it for access control and location. So if you need to know roll count, who's on site, what trades are on site, you can do that right within the application, which also leads to easier muster and evacuations as well. So you can actually check people in and out very easily with these, either a laser scanner, scan their badge, or if they have an active RFID badge, they can actually be tracked automatically as they come to a muster station. You can see right from your tablet device or your smartphone who's at what muster station, who hasn't come to a muster station yet. So you would know who to call in the event of emergency, like their supervisor if they haven't showed up yet. The other useful thing for safety folks is certification tracking and knowing specialty trades as well. So certifications, which would include things like first aid, training, or fall arrest, or aerial work platform trainings. If they don't have those particular certifications up to date, the system will warn you, and then or if you're doing a random audit out in the field, you can scan someone's badge and see what certifications they have and if are any out of date. But you can set the system up so that you actually get alerted on that certification if it's out of date, and make sure it's up to date before they even start their day. Other things you can do with the mobile devices for personnel is equipment check in, check out. So you can actually scan a piece of tool or equipment out to them easily and check it back in with a mobile device like this. They can also see their work package information. If you're building your work packages and you're redoing them throughout the project, well, if you want to see what package you're assigned to, what tools you need, what equipment you need, other specialty trades that you might need on that work package, all that's available from that mobile device, and so that means they don't need to go back to the office or trailer to find that information. So personnel tracking has many benefits, not just safety, but also what is it that the worker needs to complete. So just a few more slides here before we jump into some poll questions. Just some of the adoption lessons that we've learned here. The first bullet here really talks about, again, that killer application. So it's got to be integrated into something to make it useful for their daily operation, or make it useful so if you're actually working with an ERP system, like SAP or Oracle, that data that you're processing is also pushed automatically. So we're reducing double entry or triple entry in most cases. One of the big things here, the second bullet, really is around sort of the simple user interface. So think Google or think Facebook. If you don't need to read the instructions, then you're going to have a much better user experience, and that's what we've seen. The third lesson is around support. So in this case, you need support in both directions, upper and lower. So if you look at the corporate side, you really need the support of your corporate staff as initiative to make sure that the technology is being used. But you also need that support from your project crews as well. So even if corporate wants to use it and the project says, hey, we're just going to do it the old way or the way we've been doing it, you really need their support. Okay, and so there's a number of ways that Intelliwave has actually helped with that in terms of getting different teams on board and excited about the technology and how it's going to change the way they do work. You also have to make sure there's value added as well for those project-based folks, and they just don't want to think it's another task they have to do, but it actually adds value to their work. So if they're more efficient, they're going to be much more proud of their completed work. The third last bullet there, perfection reality, I just want to mention around, it is technology and it is evolving, and so nothing is perfect, 100% perfect. You always find a few things that may not be just right, or someone may think it should operate a little bit differently. So it's just one of the realities of technology, and I'm sure most people are aware of. But it is something that's going to, you have to face at one point or another. The other key adoption lesson is I'm going to mention around support. Okay, so the first one is super users. That's really identifying somebody on the corporate side and on the project side that really is the leader. I'll call them a cheerleader as well. So they're the ones that are pushing the technology and making sure that the users are happy and again, that user experience is always very high. And then the last bullet there is just around training, just to make sure that, you know, as these projects continue, you know, if they're a 2 or 3 year project, you have typically staff turning over, workers changing, and so you always have to have ongoing training to make sure that the tools can be utilized most easily in terms of operation, making sure a lot of it's just around knowing that those tools are available for them to do their work. And then just one last point here around performance considerations. So when we deploy a project, we typically look at network infrastructure. So what cellular coverage, is it LTE, is it 3G? Is there Wi-Fi in the area? If it's a remote site, you know, what's their you know, internet like in their trailers, if they're using satellite communications. So that's very important. Again, it's really making sure that you've got your users happy and accepting those tools, and if they have any lag or problems with that infrastructure, again, it's going to be a bit of a bad experience for them. And so there are ways around that, but you just have to think of them when you're deploying your project. Legacy OS is another good one. So in some cases, the client asks us if they can use their existing mobile devices, which may be older Windows mobile devices like from Motorola or Intermec. So you want to make sure that you know, if you're deploying a high performance system, in most cases you want to make sure that your legacy OSs aren't really taking away from that experience. So you can definitely reuse what you have in most cases, but you have to understand those performance you know, enhancements that you would get from newer devices. The other thing in terms of scanning I mentioned at the very beginning was the difference between optical and laser scanning. That's a key performance consideration. Or RFID scanning is another one. Cold warm start for GPS type location services. If it takes many minutes for your GPS to get locked onto satellites for your location-based services, we've seen that provide a bit of a poor user experience as well. So there are definitely better devices out on the market, and so it's just a matter of choosing, again, the right one. All kind of goes along with planning for your infrastructure, your OSs, etc. And then environment, you know, so what do you actually need? You know, if you're an industrial environment type operation, well, you probably want, in most cases, a ruggedized device. If you're in the building space, you know, a consumer type device might be just fine, you know, for your application. So a few different performance considerations there to think about during your deployments. And then just one last thing we'll talk about here on the mobile devices is really operation with the cloud. So a lot of applications today are really cloud-based applications. Okay, so that means that your information is not on site. It's actually hosted somewhere else, typically Amazon Web Services or on Microsoft or Google potentially. So you just want to make sure that if you are doing connectivity-based type applications, that your performance matches those expectations for cloud-based services, or if you're doing post-sync, that you know, you can also handle that as well. Okay, Stuart, so I'll hand it back to you for a few questions.
Thank you very much, Dale. Very interesting. We will now go into the poll session, poll question session, and I'll just open the first one up there. The first question is, I would best describe my field team's technology acceptance mentality as innovators, early adopters, early majority, late majority, and the one that always makes me laugh, laggards. If you can hit your selection, please. Okay, it looks like question 2 has become question 1 and vice versa. but I think you saw on the screen what the question was, and I think everybody's answered it. Let me close that and launch the results. Okay. Dale, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, sure. No, that's definitely what I would expect here. Is that just like we've seen in our projects that we operate in, typically most devices are industrial grade.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Thank you. Okay. Very quickly into the next question. I would best describe my field team's technology acceptance. No, that was the previous question. Let me see if it launches that this time. Okay. Poll's launched. Not so much in the end bracket, which is good. So majority somewhere in the middle. As I can see it. Okay, we've got a fair proportion there voted. Close that one down. Share that. Dale, comments on that one?
It looks exactly like the bell curve.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? Funny, funny. Yeah, thank you very much for that. Okay, and the third question. What do you think holds back technology acceptance in your organisation? Okay, thanks everybody for voting on that one. Yeah, that's a familiar one. Change is hard. Certainly something I've seen with my interaction with the industry. Dale, thoughts on that one for yourself?
Sure, Stuart. Yeah, do you have the results there?
Yep. Hang on. Just let me just put the thing up on the screen. Can see that okay?
Yeah. So yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. That's typically what we see as well. So again, to get change resolved is really kind of that slide I had about making sure you have support, corporate support, project support. You've got the right application, really to fit the needs, right?
Sure, sure. Yeah. Okay. Good. Thank you. Thanks everybody for voting on that one. I'll move on to the final one. Is your organisation using public cloud-based construction applications today? Okay, I'll close that one up and share that. Okay, Dale, any thoughts on that one?
No, but it's really promising to see that looks like, what, 70 or 80% is yes sir, but in the future. So that's excellent, Stuart.
Yeah, good. Well, thanks everybody for voting on those polls. That's great information, which we will parcel up and use. Thank you. Okay, so I'll just close that one up and move on to the next slide. We've got some questions now that let me just get these on the screen. Okay, got a number of questions. I've probably got too many to go through, but let me see if I can pick out the salient ones. Okay, a lot of IM professionals I have spoken to actually would not want a mobile app to immediately modify an ERP, be that SAP, Oracle, etc., due to QA. What uses have you found that is the best case where changes can be quality checked by super users in app and portals? Dale?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, we get that quite often. That typically for the first few projects, there's got to be a quality check on that data, and typically somebody wants to push or post that data into the ERP. So we typically provide, for most first applications is a bit of a middle layer, so that the data can be ready to be pushed into the ERP, but still need to be checked, by somebody or a super user or somebody in the organization, right, that wants their eyes on it before it's posted.
Sure.
So that's pretty typical, Stuart. Most are not comfortable with a direct push. In some cases, so it's going to be a bit of an evolution. I think eventually it will happen, but it's going to take probably a few more years here before it becomes more standard practice.
Sure. Okay, thank you for that one. I've got another question here that's arrived. If I don't have an internet connection from a mobile device in the field, can I still use the material management functions?
Yeah, so great question there. I think that's in terms of my site's remote, and I may not have access to LTE or even 3G. So in that case, you want to make sure your mobile device can collect data in offline mode and then synchronize it back when it sees a connection through Wi-Fi, or maybe you're docking it at your computer through USB. And so yeah, that's very important to have that offline mode for those types of projects. Most 80% or more projects actually have good connectivity, but when you develop your application, you want to make sure you've got that offline support. So even some of the HTML5 tools, not even the built-in apps, but the HTML5 tools, can also operate in offline mode as well, so that it actually caches the pages and you can do your operations just like you would in application. So just something to be thought about during design, if you're building an in-house product or if you're using a third-party product.
Sure. Okay, another question I've got here. How do I get my POs and equipment lists into SiteSense if I want to use a materials management application?
Yeah, so that's a good question. We get a lot as well. So to load your POs, our most typical common way of loading POs is through Excel templates. In some cases, you do direct importation through can be a third-party software set like SAP or Oracle, and in some cases, construction material management software kits as well, like Smart Plant Materials as an example. So there's a couple ways to do it. One is, the hardest way to do it is to enter it all by hand, essentially into the system. The second way is through a template type application where you can upload Excel files into the system or email Excel files in the system based on a template. And the third one is that direct adapter into those third-party systems for pulling the POs.
Okay, good. I've got another couple of questions here as well. If we have some existing tablets and rugged PCs, can we still use SiteSense applications?
Yeah, so one of the things I mentioned before there is the legacy OS, which also can include your maybe legacy mobile devices or PCs. The answer is yes. It just needs to be looked at in terms of performance, and is it going to meet the performance requirements for the users and for the site, and then you can kind of go from there and reuse as you feel need to.
Okay, good. Well, thank you for that one. The other question I've got here is I suppose it's aimed at me. This one is you mentioned early on about the productivity advancement targets, or the PATs for short. How do we get involved in the PATs? Well, if as I know some of you that are on the call today are already involved with them, those that aren't and want to get involved and saw some value in that, please contact me directly, and I will put you in touch with the relevant individuals within Fiatech. The other question I've got here: What are the main early benefits reported by clients of using this technology, Dale?
Yeah, no, good question. So typically what we see is that time on tools does increase. That's usually the first benefit for, you know, if you're talking about what you can do for visibility of your materials and equipment and making it easier to find out that availability of those pieces. The ones in materials management that we typically see are as the receiving time is dramatically reduced, in some cases by 80% or more. We've seen reductions in material handling crews as well, so because they're processing less paperwork, they're processing less questions, you know, that indirect labor can also be reduced. So there's just a few examples, but yeah, generally all clients that have, in our case, used a site-sense-based system with mobile devices have reordered the system because they see these benefits, and they find more benefits as they continue to use for multiple projects.
Sure, sure. Okay, thank you. Just moving on to the next slide. It's an announcement really with the mention of the Fiatech Leadership Forum, which is 19th to the 21st of September. Please have a look at the website. There are lots of interesting areas. We will also get to hear firsthand the advancements with PATS. As I mentioned, there's a lot of individuals on the call today that are involved with them. For those that aren't, then you can find a lot of information if you go to that link. So please do have a look. And of course, the thing in the left-hand corner, the early bird special, there's a discount till the 1st of August. So please do have a look. Comit, who is part of the partnership for the mobile IT communities, they're having a conference also in September last week. Please have a look at that. That's entitled Digitally Building Britain. And the other thing I will mention is, as ever, please join the conversation. With lots of different channels there, lots of things going on. Please get involved. I'd like to say thank you very much for everybody joining us today. I'm sorry we're a little bit overrun, but we've had a very interesting and fun, full-packed presentation session today. Thank you very much to Dale and Intelliwave for delivering that. Thanks also to Vineet for helping supply information, and thanks to everybody for coming along. We will provide the recording in a few days through YouTube. Please watch out for that, and also please take part in the survey. So on behalf of everybody at the Mobile IT Community of Interest, Fiatech and Comit, thank you very much for coming along, and we look forward to seeing you on the next one. Thank you.